Welcome back to Beyond the Facade. This is Doña Junta from Salt Me Chronicles. I am so happy to be back.
Hey everyone, this is Sabrina, observing spooks and other vices, but Sabrina.
Hey, so we've been gone for it seems like a long, long time. It's only been like a month and a half, but I don't know why it seems like so long. To me, it does. What about to you?
Yeah, so many changes, challenges, etc. It's been a while. A little rusty, and I had to find my equipment to record this.
Yeah,
Absent-minded.
yeah. I mean, life gets in the way, or just it's not that it gets in the way, but it's just sometimes there's things that come up. I had to do a move. I'm still in LA, but I just had to move. And with moving comes a lot of stuff like looking for a place and moving to the place. So I got really, really busy, and Sabrina as well on her end. So that was my thing. And and then we just had to figure out a schedule, but we definitely want to, we're not like dropped off the face of the earth. We're still here. We're still, our brain is still thinking of ideas. So what about yourself?
Yeah, we haven't stopped. We've been looking, we've been planning. We have some interesting, fun stuff ahead for the next coming months because it's kind of hard to sit in our hands and not bring you any content. But in the meantime, we were thinking of things. My youngest daughter went back to college,
Oh,
and that's a
nice.
process. And my new semester of school just started up, and that is exhausting. And on top of that, I just recently got married.
Yay,
Thank you very much.
congratulations. Yes,
Yeah,
so
so
I'm sure you guys would imagine her planning all that is a lot.
it's an understatement. We're back on track, and we are looking forward to bringing you guys some interesting and fun content that you guys crave so much.
Yes, so also hopefully maybe sometime by the end of the year or the beginning of next year, we could actually do the podcast together in the same room. We just have to get more equipment because obviously, it takes, more things to be able to set that up. But if we do that, it's going to be a little bit more intimate. It's not going to be the Zoom, which we will still do Zoom for, interviews and things like that, or if we just can't meet. But we do want the goal to be together in the room and actually be talking um, in the same room during the podcast.
We'll be bringing cocktails and tea your way.
Yeah,
Conversation.
Sabrina's tea hour or something. I don't know. We'll
We'll
figure it
see.
out. But
Spike tea.
we did go out. Maybe was it last week or 2 weeks ago? It feels like it's time
I
just
think it
flies.
was last week, but I'm pretty sure it was last Saturday, but it feels like it was 2 weeks ago.
Yes, it does. Are you sure? Any?
Yes, because I still can taste the tacos now.
Oh yeah, we went to get guisados tacos in Echo Park, which it is kind of hipster now, but it's actually really, really good. I mean,
It is.
it's a little pricier than a regular taco, but it's
It's
just,
worth it.
yeah, it's so good. So we went there because we were trying to get to Olvera Street to eat the taquitos con guacamole, like the sauce, the 1930s tacos, I call them, but we didn't make it. But just to kind of recap that day, we went to go look for, um, in English, I guess, is El Royale Apartments.
Yes, that's appropriate in
El
English.
Royale, and
Yeah.
I had
Yes.
heard of them, and you hadn't heard of them before, the
I don't
apartments.
think I had heard of them before, no.
I had seen them in photos. People post them kind of often. I hadn't seen them, and I thought they were just probably non-existent. But a lot of people, oh, they're still there, obviously. So I wanted to see them in person, but it was like really last minute, and we the downside to this time of the year, which there's a good side to this time of the year, with you love Halloween and all this stuff,
It's my
but
favorite time
it
of the
it
year.
gets dark really early. So
I
for
I love that in every other aspect except exploring.
yeah, so unless you're paranormal investigating, I guess that's a good thing. But if you're taking photos or actually like observing buildings or like creeping through buildings, like to see the architecture, it's gonna be really hard. You know. when it gets dark at 5 o'clock, or even going to a cemetery. Most of them close so early.
I know, and that's our biggest dilemma in life, isn't it?
Can't get to any of them.
Getting me out of the door before 2, right?
Yeah. So we came out. We literally raced from Harbor area down to Hollywood, like the Los Feliz Hollywood area where El Royale is. There's so much traffic. LA. It took an hour just to get to like 20 miles in LA. Yeah. Which is wild. But we got to the apartments, and the reason I wanted to see them because I just love like old 1920s apartments.
She does.
Yeah.
I can vouch.
Well, I just imagine like these fancy people like living in them and like what they're wearing. I mean, what do you imagine?
Yes, remember we had this conversation, not to speed up the process, but we were standing at their very bare side area, which we've decided is like a dog walking area.
A dog park, yeah.
Yeah, very bare looking, and we were discussing, and she said she imagined. What did you imagine?
Well,
flappers.
Yeah, I remembered there was a comment on my page about the St. Vincent or what? There was a St. Germain apartments, and this one lady had commented, "Oh, she imagines in the 20s flappers like getting ready to go out, leaving the place." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I could totally see that."
For me, sorry, keep going.
No, I could totally see that. So with these 1920 apartments, I don't see them maybe living there, but like if they're partying with somebody that's living there or something, right?
Me, I see it a little different. I see like businessmen, businesswomen, like snooty, hoity-toity kind of people with furs. I don't necessarily see flappers because when I think of a flapper, I think of good time girls. And then we had this deep discussion because I was like, how were the flappers in California? Because during the time, that's more East Coast. So who knows? We should really dig into that, history because we want to know what flappers look like in the 20s in California.
So hey, that's a really good episode idea, Sabrina. I would love to do that because
let's do it.
It's fashion based, but it's also like maybe in the East Coast, like you said, it is going to be different than California.
Yeah, because California at the time is just barely being like, not barely, but it's still fairly new as compared to like the East Coast, like Chicago, New York, all those areas where you think of speakeasies and mafiosa type things going on and flappers. Good time.
Yeah, and that's we also talked about a little bit about there was a lot of speakeasies in LA that were during the Prohibition. And I know like how you said they were more connected to the East Coast, but apparently there was a lot here. I went to one place called King Eddie's, which is still there. It was considered a Skid Row dive bar, but it got really gentrified and it went from like $3 house vodka tonics to like probably $15 drinks. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just
full of ice.
So
and a mint on top.
Yeah. So that place was the only one I know that was a speakeasy because I remember there's a weird back room where there has stairs going down, like a million stairs going down, and the bartender was telling us like, when they were cleaning it out, it was always a basement for storage and things like that. But when they were like cleaning it out and like, because it was in like just chipping away at everything, they found like I guess some doors that they just found the evidence that it was a speakeasy at one time. And on top, I believe, and we'll look at this deeper when we do a different episode.
Definitely.
I think it pretended to be a piano store or something. I don't know if I just heard that there is some kind of store on top, and then down there was where the actual King Eddie's bar or the whatever speakeasy they had down there.
Makes sense. When I envisioned Los Angeles in the 20s, I know it's probably populated, but not nearly as much as like the East Coast. So I think that while obviously there's speakeasies in Los Angeles, like you mentioned, I think there was probably a lot of home drinking and not maybe so much gathering. But I could be totally off. So we really have to look into this one. It'll be fun.
Yeah, not just that, but like you're right about the East Coast with the mobsters being more known, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder how prevalent was it here in LA? Because you do see a lot of film noir movies, more the 40s with
Yes.
LA mobsters, but I don't know if that was just acting or I
It's
mean
acting. It was
it was
emulating the
acting,
East
but
Coast. It's
okay.
emulating the East Coast. Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
not an expert in that, but I'm curious about that too. Like, was there any activity?
I'm sure
Um,
there was, and I don't know necessarily if it was like, let's say, the Italian mafia over here, and we see evidence that there's, other different mafias that were over here and prevalent during the 1940s. During the 1920s, I'm not sure, but I'm excited for this episode, so I hope you guys are as excited when we have that one up and running.
yes.
We'll definitely keep you, you know, in the loop so you can
So we
tune
went
in.
to El Royale, which we will go back because you can't see the details at night. All we see was a beautiful lobby, kind of from what we could
Beautiful
see,
lobby.
and the rest was kind of weird because how you said like the side part was little run down.
Yeah, because we were discussing how much rent it would cost. Could you tell them how much the penthouse
Oh
cost?
yes, I believe there's two penthouses on top. They're $25,000 a month, which
Say that
is
one more time, just in case they didn't hear
twenty
that in the
five
back.
thousand dollars a month. And the other units below, whether it's I think if there's only 2 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms, they're like 5 to 6 thousand a month, which is obviously way less, but it's still a lot for a 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom.
It
Um,
is
yeah,
quite a large sum there.
but
And
the
for paying that much, you would expect some like amazing maintenance. And they had some random like scaffolding, like just kind of
thrown,
tossed there.
it
Yeah, it
was
just
just
did.
thrown.
It didn't look. It looked weird. So I was just like, this is suspect. I don't know what's going on in here.
Yes. So the $25,000 unit is like obviously the top level. It has indoor, outdoor, a rooftop, obviously patio and all kinds of stuff. I mean, if you're rich enough or wealthy enough to rent that, then you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, kudos to you.
Right. And then I showed you the picture of it when it was back in the 20s. What do you think of the comparison? I mean,
I definitely have to see it in the daytime to get a full comparison. I will tell you guys, this is my special month right now, and we got there. The building is looming. It's so tall. When you go up to the very front, and you take a look, and you kind of look up to see the very top, it looms back down at you. Like, what are you looking at? I
yeah.
felt like there was like 20 eyes or more looking down at me.
Oh yeah, I
There's
forgot
no
about that.
person there, no alive person looking at me. They're in their homes doing what people do in their homes. There's nobody looking at me, but there was definitely some paranormal activity going on that night.
So what kind of like feeling do you get in your body, or is it just kind of like, what does it feel for you?
Huh. I can't describe this specific instance. I can't describe it more than just looking up and think about being in a huge like apartment complex or hotel, and you have people that are like by the elevators or by the railing that are also looking down at you.
Yeah,
That's exactly how it felt.
but
And
nobody
I could,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And not just the feeling, but I can see in a sense, but I can't see people. It's really odd to explain, but I see them looking at me, but I don't see a shadow and I don't see a person. I just see like people or past people looking at me.
Yeah, I could imagine that. So it's like if there was people actually there, but not, you're already getting the feeling. Interesting.
Off right off the bat, right when we stood up there, they were like, "These girls are from the wrong traps," or "What are these girls doing over here?" Who knows what they were thinking? I didn't really get that deep into it, and it was really loud, a very busy street, so I have to sit there and really like focus, and I wasn't really focusing, but it was fun.
Yeah, and I will try to do more research on the celebrities that live there. And I'm sure it was like celebrities. I think it was a lot of celebrities that live there and like people with old money and things like that. So I'll look more into that. But we do want to go back in the day. Hey, maybe we'll pass by today. We'll see.
Maybe.
So after that, we went to Guisados and she tried the tacos for the first time. Oh, because we wanted to go to the 1930s tacos.
Yes.
Because it's just, I love also, like, okay, so I know Olvera Street is controversial in a sense because it was
controversial.
Part of it was the whole romanticizing Mexican culture, right? The sombreros with the pretty
Spanish
girl.
influence, yes.
Where they romanticize, oh, this is like Mexican culture and things like that. Which, you know, it was up until we started really being more conscious that this came into play. Because when you're younger, you think that's what it is, right? Like, oh.
Well, we get indoctrinated and we don't talk about the repatriation of Mexicans to Mexico when this was Mexico not that long before they started repatriating them back to Mexico. It's very problematic, not to mention, especially on an Indigenous Day, all of the Indigenous people that are buried there, unmarked graves, and it's disgusting what they did to the Indigenous people of this country globally on this, well, not globally, but on Turtle Island. It's disgusting, and specifically in Olvera Street. So while it's beautiful and it is romantic and it feels like we have a connection with culture there in a weird way, I have a great friend that does a lot of Aztec dancing there. So and that's beautiful, but it is problematic. So like Doña Junta's expressing, it's very it's hard because you want to go there and enjoy yourself, and then as soon as you do, you get a pit in the stomach, like, oh, I hate this colonization and what they've done to our people.
Right. No, it's that vibe. And so it's like a mixed feelings because again, we grew up learning this and having this around, like, you know, your parents that don't know much any better, you know, immigrant parents from Mexico, they also look at this place like, oh, reminds us of our, you know, Mexico and things like that, right? So it's just a weird thing, but you know, as long as we're conscious and we have awareness of this. And yes, today is Indigenous People Day, so I'm glad that LA County has been able to now recognize that and drop the other stuff that
Bullshit.
We learned. Yeah. So
excuse me.
Just remember today is a definitely important day.
And remember that wherever you're standing, you're living on stolen land. Get to know the land, get to know the people that lived on that land, and be respectful.
Right.
And if you can use your voice and your privilege to help Indigenous people, please do so.
Yeah, definitely.
We appreciate it.
So, but okay, so there's the 1930s tacos called Cielito Lindo. It's one of the oldest taquito stand that there is there. I don't know exactly the year, but 1930s. And I've been wanting to go for like a long time. Just like, I have tried the taquitos before through the years.
Because we're just hungry.
Yeah.
We're hungry, you guys.
We're always hungry by the time.
Yes. Adventuring builds a huge appetite.
And then it's always too late.
It always is.
So we were going to go there. And then during the drive there, we were like, okay, let's actually pay respects to the whole, there was a massacre that happened there.
Yes.
And that was very like, oh my God, like this is not stuff that they talk about either. No. So share a little bit about the massacre, Sabrina.
I have to pop it up because I apologize, all of you. I wasn't as prepared, but off the top of my head, I think it was 1871. There was an area where Chinese people that lived in Los Angeles were made to live. Do you remember what the name of that was?
Well, Olvera Street is right across from Chinatown, so I'm imagining somewhere right there in that vicinity.
There was like a little part. It was called something specific.
And they had like a name for it, right?
They had a name for it. I could look on my phone if you guys don't mind me looking down for a second. I was first alerted about this information by a friend named Richard Carradine. Shout out to Gula. I miss Gula. Gula was a thing. If you know what it is, great. And if you don't know, well, then I'm sorry. It's
Now
kind of
you
one of
know.
those things. Yeah, you might have to look it up. He did a tour. He did remember the Metro tour?
Yes.
Yeah, and we started at the Union Station, and the Pico House is right behind. And he mentioned, I can't find it. He mentioned the little massacre, not the little massacre. He mentioned the massacre, and I believe it was 18 Chinese people were murdered. They were hung at the gallows. I guess some
Yes.
Chinese people in the area where they lived were kind of warring against each other. So, like another Chinese, I don't want to say gang, but like maybe family or affiliation were fighting amongst each other, and they had like a shootout. And the white and Spaniard people of Los Angeles and the surrounding area went out and grabbed 18 Chinese people and strung them up and killed them.
Yeah, terrible.
And when the dust settled, I think out of all the 18 of the people, the Chinese people that were murdered, two people were involved in that conflict between, the Chinese conflict between each other. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting. We were never told about that
No.
ever, because that's something that Los Angeles wants to sweep under the rug. They don't want you to know about that.
And I didn't learn about any is of this tragedies on that street until I got on a tour. Well, that tour with them in Gula, but also Barrio Boychik did a tour of the cemeteries in that area, which I didn't even know there was a cemetery there because it got paved over with cement, like a parking lot.
Yeah,
And then it was just a big old thing. And so there was a lot of indigenous graves right there
there is.
that
And
were like abandoned, and then they fought for it to get recognition. And I think they were brought, I don't know, it was just a bunch of stuff. So there is some memorabilia to it now, like, but I think a lot of it was lost because they paved over it and all kinds of stuff.
there's like a little area, and I think there may be a plaque because I was there for the MMWI, MMIW, excuse me, for that day. We had like a little, I don't want to say protest, but more like a gathering to remember our indigenous relatives that were there, or the indigenous people that were murdered there. Or not murdered, but were buried there and forgotten about, and to remember their lives and the hardships that they had to go through. But I think there's a plaque there, but you'd have to go look.
Yes. So we want to go back and actually be more present, be more mindful.
I think that when you think of Los Angeles, it's a very, everyone comes to Los Angeles, to Beverly Hills, to Hollywood to become an actor from other states. And I love California. I love Los Angeles in general, but it has a very dark history to it. And we must remember that. And we must remember it so we don't ever fall trapped to thinking. Sometimes we think we're better than so many other states or so many other places, but really 100 years ago we weren't that much better than anyone else. So let's keep that in mind, and let's continue to vocalize the atrocities that that people that were non-white had to endure before. And remember, when you're in Olvera Street, enjoy yourself, eat some food, watch the Aztec dancers, but then go pay tribute to the indigenous people that are buried there, and remember these Chinese. I believe they were mostly men. I have to look back, but I believe they're all men. And remember that they died for no reason, because of racism.
Going there, it is a touristy type of it could be cheesy with the donkeys and the piñatas and all that, but there's way more to that than that layer. There's more layers to it that, if you don't already take the time to go look into it, I would say look into that history, and we'll do our best to bring that out, share some of that as well. So we were trying to get the taquitos there, which I still want to get. So maybe we'll go today. I don't know.
Maybe. And just to let you guys know that this massacre, the Chinese massacre, happened this month in 1871.
Yeah, that was another odd thing, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Perfect for this, October edition. I don't want to. I want to tread lightly because I don't want to, laugh and make it haunted and make it silly Halloween, stuff. It's deep stuff. Go look into it, please. But yeah, it happened in this month. I think on the 24th. Don't quote me. In 1871.
Right. So yeah, definitely something to look into. So we will go back to dig deeper soon. After that, we went to Guisados, which is an eco park. They started in Boyle Heights and then expanded because they got really popular just because they were more gourmet type of tacos. So it is a Mexican family. It's not like it's some freaking random hipster that owns it, but it is a little bit more higher end, I guess. I don't know if you want to say that. I think everybody enjoys it, but we went there and we had some great tacos.
Great tacos.
And then we seen these little abandoned cottages that were Spanish style cottages like this. If you guys know Echo Park, there's long stairs that go to all the apartments along Sunset. And there's all these cute little courtyard that go like layered up apartments. And they looked abandoned and part of it was being demolished. So I kind of went up there to creep around and some of the units were abandoned, but I do know now that some people are still there that are waiting for their money to move or something. I don't know, because investors bought it and it's going to be some ugly,
hideous,
modern, very expensive apartment building. But whoever owns it bought out all that hillside. They couldn't evict the people right away because they were under rent control and they were long-term tenants that have been there for 20 years or so. And these investors will do anything in their power to get people out. So the only way to get them out legally is by declaring that they're gonna remove all the structures there, like remove and build a new place. That's the only way they could technically say, okay, we got to keep people out. But they also have to buy them out and pay them a lot of money to really relocate them. So it's a long process. And unfortunately, a lot of these tenants, they could only afford to be there. It's a, 1-bedroom cottage. They were paying about $800 a month, which is unheard of now, especially in Echo Park, which got really gentrified. So it's just sad. And there was a group of people that did try to make these cottages a historic landmark and they failed. The city council didn't think they were that important. So sadly, a lot of these places are disappearing, not just for the historic value, but also because they help people be able to afford to live.
And it erases the actual culture. It erases like 100 years of culture that made the city what it is.
Right. I mean, the reason that those hillsides have so many stairs is it was a pedestrian city. People used the red trolley before. So the red trolley would go up and down Sunset. People would come down their stairs, get on the trolley and go to their errands or whatever, right? So they didn't need cars. They didn't need garages and they didn't have to use the sidewalk to park. So that's why those homes were convenient to the trolley. A lot of Echo Park has a lot of stairs and access like that because people walked around and things like that. So yeah, I found that out after researching that a lot of these places are becoming lost, even if people are fighting for them. So that was kind of sad.
Very sad.
Yeah. So we're still going to be kind of, we still have a lot of things to explore. So that was just kind of a day that we had.
We hadn't had a day together in a while. We missed each other. Let's just be honest. I missed you.
And also the fact that it gets so dark quick, it's harder to get out. So at least during the week and all these other things going on. But we did decide to reach out to you guys and do a Q&A as well. So you all could ask us questions about the podcast or history or anything that you guys were interested in related to what we do. So we got, thank you for those that participated. And that helps just to engage our audience, and then you guys get to know more about what we like and things like that.
We really appreciate your participation, and we want this to be, you know, if there's something you want us to see, if there's a building that you think that we might like have missed or overlooked, and you really want to shine some light on it, let us know, please, because obviously this is coming from our perspective and what we love. So if there's something you love, let us know.
Right, definitely. So we'll go ahead and start the Q&A, and I'll read the first question and we'll both answer it. So the first one is by Love77 Drug, which is one of she's a Maritza's friend and our friend now.
It's my friend Reina.
Mm-hmm. She probably didn't want to.
Reina.
Hi, Reina. So she asked, what is the most disturbing thing you encountered while ghost hunting or visiting an old building? So I could go first since you have probably a longer answer. I can't say I've seen anything disturbing because I haven't felt anything paranormal wise. I would say like while visiting buildings, the only thing that's been more disturbing or creepy maybe is like when before with graffiti, we would go in to these buildings and there would probably be people living there. Very interesting. Sometimes we get chased out. Sometimes it was not even that. It's just very odd characters in the dark. So it'd be scary in that way. But then there would be times we did talk to people and they would kind of look out for us, I guess. But it's mostly been that, just like running into maybe like homeless people in there, but not that they really did anything, or just like weird animals and stuff like that. But I had nothing like where I seen some ghosts and he chased me out or anything. It's just if I got chased out, it was by a human, not a ghost.
What weird animals did you encounter? I need to know.
Just, weird like owls and like weird raccoons and like rats and rodents and all kinds of stuff like that. Or like if it's been a rural area, maybe like a coyote or like is there a coyote? Yeah, coyotes.
Yeah, there's lots of coyotes. Even in my city, there's coyotes.
Yeah. So things like that, but nothing where I would say like, oh my God, this is like, I think I scare myself more like, but it wasn't like something like paranormal.
Got it.
What would you say?
I have so many instances. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a scaredy cat by any means. I've put myself many times on the lines and walked into dark rooms with who knows what's in there, with just a flashlight, recorder, and just my sense of self and self-awareness. And I have done that many times, and because I'm a brave girl, but brave girls still get scared sometimes. So maybe I'll share a few with you guys. One time in Linda Vista.
So where's Linda Vista at?
Linda Vista is no longer there. Linda Vista is in Boyle Heights. It is, what is it called now? Do you remember? It's called like Hollenbach
Terrace or something like that.
Hollenbach Terrace, yeah.
Right across from Hollenbach Park.
Exactly. It used to be a hospital. I'm sure many people went there maybe back 10, 11, 12 years ago because it was a happening spot for paranormal activity, and they ran it like that back then. Linda Vista, to my knowledge, and every time I had been there, were known for shadow people, and they'd have some major, intense shadow people. I remember being on the first floor by like what I can only describe as kind of like emergency, the ED, like the emergency department, and there'd be gurneys, like it's set up just like as if, think of like your local hospital, your local county hospital at that. Think about it as if everyone just got up and walked away. Like just think if like all the nurses, doctors, and patients just literally got up and walked away and left everything how it is. That's kind of how it looks. And maybe it's because it's been staged like that for some shows or movies that they filmed in there. We do know that they had been filming, but overall the whole building kind of looks like that, which also gives an extra chill when you're in the dark and trying to make contact with spirits. I remember one time specifically being in that hallway and being midway down and could see off like into down the hall with a flashlight, and it's already super dark and you could see a shadow, a huge humanoid shadow. And I say huge like it's not the same size as like you or me or 6 foot. It's more like 10 foot, like cascading off the wall.
Oh my
and
God.
Nobody's walking, and it's darker than any dark that we can see. So like the whole hallway is dark, everywhere is dark, there's no lights on, but this thing is making a darker shadow than the actual darkness. And that intrinsic feeling of just being terrified and you wanted to run. I did not run. I don't run. If I run, I fall. We all know that. I fall even if I don't run. So I don't run. But it certainly gave me that feeling and the goosebumps and the heebie-jeebies and all that stuff. It was pretty terrifying. And it just walked. Like you could literally see its arms kind of like walk.
So
like
it had a human form?
It does. Most shadow people do. And it literally just walked down further from where we were at.
The fact that it's like 10 feet tall is even like creepier.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably more than 10 feet tall, like because it kind of the way it cascaded on the wall. But I wanted to give you guys the idea that it's not the same size as a human. It's easily double the size because it's not just on the main wall, but off the ceiling. Like the whole darkness is walking. It's pretty creepy. I've seen numerous shadow people in Linda Vista Hospital, and that was probably one of the scariest. Also, another really, really creepy time was being at Linda Vista, Camarillo State Hospital, also known as Cal State Channel Islands now. We were investigating.
And that's up in Ventura.
Yeah, it's past Ventura, or before
it's Ventura County though, right?
Ventura County. It's in Camarillo. And we were investigating, a group of us. At some point we were in a dark area, and I was told, so I can only go by what I was told. They kept it criminally insane, at least that's what I was told in this one area. And I remember someone pointing out, say, "Do you see that?" And I turned around and there was a human figure, and it had to have been at least, I'm not really good with measurement, at least like 3 houses, like the length of 3 houses away. And it's down like a long courtyard hallway. And it was like a big shadow of what looked like a big man, like big burly guy. And he kept like pacing. And there's no human there. You can shine the light down there and you could see right through that. But as soon as you like take the light away, there's that humanoid shadow pacing back and forth and kind of even looking like he's coming closer to us.
Yes.
And someone had already been scratched earlier in the investigation. She asked for it though. I never asked to be touched in an investigation. Like, why would I ask a random person off the street, "Hey, touch me if you're here"? I would never do that. So I would never do that in an investigation. That's, I digress. Anyways, so someone had already been scratched and we had already had a lot of strange incidents happening. But that man, because if anyone's ever worked in like a psych hospital or have ever had any encounters with somebody that might have some kind of mental health issue, the uncertainty, that feeling is just pretty scary. And the size of this person, you could tell he was like a big man. So it was pretty creepy and scary. We didn't leave. We left eventually, but we didn't leave immediately. We were trying to make contact with him.
Wow. So that was also a shadow person or a different type?
I would say that's probably more like a spirit that was manifesting himself in a shadow and not so much as a shadow person. Like when I say he was a shadow, but not like, I'm sorry, you guys, you're going to be like, what? He wasn't a shadow person. He looked like he was just manifesting like the shape of a body that looked like a shadow or looked like because I couldn't see like his whole full, like he had definition to his body. Whereas shadow people, they're humanoid shadows. They're just kind of like humanoid shadows. This one had like definition. So this we would kind of call a full body apparition, but there was no identifying face or clothes. But you could definitely see like more features of like arms and, a torso and legs and stuff.
Wow, interesting. So with shadow people, they're more like entities, or they're not like a thing, like a human thing, or formally it's just more.
Yeah, so a lot of people say a lot of different things about shadow people, and as we know, and we might have said before, shadow people or paranormal investigating paranormal in general, it's more of a pseudoscience. We don't have any way to measure. We have ways to measure electricity and frequencies, but we don't have a way to measure paranormal activity overall, or a way to like go and say that this is what happens when this happens when you die, this is what happens, and then you become a ghost. Like, there's no definitive answer. So people say all kinds of things. What I have been taught as a newbie in the paranormal scene, and what I believe now, are shadow people are a lot of people say shadow people are omens, like they bring omens,
Mm-hmm.
like there's something bad may happen. A lot of people say that there's some sort of beings from maybe another dimension
Mm-hmm.
that are observing us in our state. Why? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But a lot of people think that shadow people are demons as well.
So
So
there's
it's
different
it's
theories to it.
there's different theories. I don't really think shadow people are demons. Of course, in order to believe in a demon, you have to believe in the Bible, and that's just a whole other story for a whole other podcast and stuff like that. But I definitely think that they bring a not very nice feeling. I would never interact with a shadow person on all advice. I would say, you see them, they observe, and the more you dig into the paranormal, the more you'll see them. And like, I don't investigate very often, so I very rarely see them. But when I was investigating, like a couple nights a week and every weekend, and at least once, 2, 3 times a week, I saw them quite frequently.
Okay, so you would say it's kind of more of a negative thing seeing these shadow people.
Yeah, or just something you don't want to mess with because you just don't know what they are. And I want to also tell you that that spirit we saw connected to Camarillo State Hospital, I would go on a limb and say he's connected to Camarillo, whereas shadow people, they're not connected to a place. They can
Oh,
go anywhere. You can see them anywhere.
I
I've heard
wonder.
people.
Okay,
I've heard.
sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I've heard people say that they've been on the street driving, like on the freeway back from investigations, and encounter shadow people like in front of them in the freeway. Like,
But they're attracted to a dark place, or
I couldn't say. I really couldn't say. I think it has something. Who, I mean, maybe there's some kind of like watchers to make sure that us regular people don't break a barrier between the paranormal, and like
yeah.
maybe they monitor us, like how we're trying to make contact with spirits. I really couldn't say 100% definitively, and anyone who tells you they can, that's just BS, because I don't think anyone could really tell you definitively. But I will say that they don't. They're not. They tend to be wherever you're trying to make contact with spirits. But as I investigated way more often, because for a couple years there I was investigating quite often, um, I've seen them across the street at my own home. So
Wow.
they tend to know who you are and so forth. And I know that sounds really weird, but
I'm gonna have to look into that. Sounds interesting. Okay, so thank you, Raina, for that question.
thank you, Raina. Hi, Raina. Bye.
Okay, so the next question, and I'll read it here. It's by Historiadora. I don't know if you pronounce it that way. You could correct us. But she's one of our history ladies on our IG. So she's pretty active.
Hi. Yeah.
So she asks, what's your favorite subject in history or time period in history, and why?
Wow.
Well, so I could answer first.
Okay.
I didn't really like history. I know that sounds weird to say, but like in school, like the history that they taught us was not that interesting to me. Maybe some things were like, oh wow, but obviously we already know that history is the whitewash history, what they want us to know, right? So history was kind of always boring to me until again till college, where I started learning more of our my own history with the Mexican culture and things like that. So I would say that I do like more of like the Chicano history, the early Mexican history, also even going back to the Mayan history of the Mayans and things like that from like way when the time first started. Um, so I would say like the 1930s, 1940s Chicano history. I really like hearing about that, and we know that goes with the Zoot Suit riots, the that era, and then it also was a time where a lot of Mexicans migrated to the U.S. There was a big migration during that time after the Mexican Revolution. So I do like that. And then, but even going to like Mexico or like uh, to Tulum and things, for example, like seeing like the indigenous Mayan history was really amazing. So that made me appreciate more of the indigenous culture of Mexico because in general with the Mexican culture, there is a lot of colorism, just like there is like in the African American culture. Like if you're lighter skin or you have more European features, you're more beautiful or you're more well off. You're seen on TV more. You get like positions of power and things like that in Mexico. There's a lot of that. So a lot of times the indigenous people in Mexico kind of get called indios, morenos, negros, like they could kind of look down upon. And growing up, you hear that like, oh, it is India, like you're Indian or something like that. That was like a term, like when it was not a nice term. So once you're again more conscious, you get to appreciate the Mayan culture is amazing people, very smart, very it's so I love that type of history, just relearning or learning for the first time the history of where my culture came from. So that's kind of what's more of my interest. And plus the I guess 19th century, 20th century, 21st century, a lot of the more recent times. I'm not going way back unless the Mayan, yes, but more recent times I do like more of that history. How
Are
about
you done?
yourself? Yeah.
Just
Or if
making
you
sure.
have comments, go ahead. But if you have questions.
No, I think that's wonderful relearning history because we weren't really taught the appropriate history of the civilization. We're taught a very whitewashed colonial history around the world. For me, I've always wanted to be a historian when I was little or an archaeologist. I was obsessed from it's Indiana Jones's fault. I was raised by the TV, and I watched so many movies. But Indiana Jones is one of my favorites when I was little, and I was obsessed with ancient Egypt as a child, and I still love ancient Egypt. I really do. The pyramids and
Yes.
the fashion, and it's still very relevant to this day. And even like, and it's had its revivals like in the 1920s, which is
Oh yeah.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I'm obsessed with fashion, and so that I still to this day love ancient Egypt, or ancient civilizations in Europe too are pretty awesome. I do have an affinity for the Victorian era or late Victorian era, not like it's post Civil War. It's really taken an evolution as I get older. I'd say now that I really like the turn of the century, the teens, the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like more my love at this point. As I've gotten older and really got to know who I am, and what I mean by that is, I'm always told that I'm a half breed. My father's Mexican, my mom's white. So until you learn what DNA is and how that works, I was raised with my white family, so I always saw the Victorian era as like in London, these fashionable ladies and these big
Yeah.
dresses. But if we put it into perspective, and we saw where I'd be during the Victorian era, it wouldn't be in California; it would be in New Mexico, and I would be on a ranch and my indigenous roots and Mexican roots, and it's not as nearly as
Glamorous, right?
glamorous as I initially thought, but I still do. I have a new love for the Victorian era and the post-Victorian. It's really hard to decolonize my romanticism of those eras because I am a true blue, um, uh, like a post or period drama television watchers. Like anything that's period, I want to watch it. If it's Victorian, if it's turn of the century, I love it. I think the fashion is what especially draws me. There's a very romantic feeling, at least for white people, and in the Victorian era, it's a very romantic era,
Uh-huh.
and I love that about that. And it's changing quite a bit as we speak. It's still like evolving, but we never want to stop evolving. So, but yeah, I love the 20s too. I didn't always love the 20s. I used to love the 40s so much, and I just don't. I think the fashion's gorgeous for women. Um, I think the atrocities that were committed during World War II is horrible. But now I just really, really love the turn of the century up to the 20s. Those are my favorite, or very late Victorian.
Yeah.
Like spiritualism and its evolution. But I honestly, when I think of history, I think most of the U.S. and then Europe and then older civilizations.
Right. And I like how you said the Egyptian revival from that book we read. It reminds me of the book we read in the book club, which
Oh,
was
my choice, yeah, Agatha Christie, the Death on the Nile. Yeah, I
yeah.
was obsessed. I have, if you one thing you guys don't know about me, since this is getting to know your host better today, that I love to plan trips. I have like probably 10 trips that I planned in the last like 5-6 years, and one of them's to Egypt, and it's kind of like a Death on the Nile trip that I was inspired by someone I saw on Instagram, and I was obsessed. If you could see the silk and the turbans, and then you really put your thought into it, and it's very colonized way. It's such a horrible thing. I want to go and dress up in these elaborate bright silks and turbans and soft breezy
Yeah.
clothes, and then you got to think about like what does that say to Egypt. But anyway, I still love the 20s revival, the
So
Egyptian
that book
revival.
was in the 20s, right? Or
It
it was
was. It
taking place.
was the late 20s or the early 30s.
Okay.
Yes.
So yes, La Historia now. Maybe I'm making that up. Thank you for your question.
Thank
Well,
you.
the second question is also by her other account, Mrs. Marim King Mari. I don't know. You have some interesting names. So she asked, "What are your top 5 architectural buildings and why?" So I went down my list I, and of my top 5. So I want to say the first one's General Hospital, as you know.
Of course it is.
Because just the fact that it always calls us when we're driving around there, it's sitting there kind of lonely, but not. To me, it's lonely. There's so much that happened in that building. So much, I guess, because it's retired now. It's like a human that's retired. There was so much going on in that building. It was so huge. So many people have died there. So many people have been born there. So many people have been healed there and not healed, whatever it is. There's been so much, and now it's just kind of sitting quietly, very massive. So
Mother.
the mother, and then so I like seeing that, and I like driving around the area on the weekends. I hear it's really crowded on the weekday because there is a USC's campus is actually there, and there's college kids all over, doctors, residents, and all that. But I like it on the weekend when nobody's there. And then I do like the tunnels and like all the pathways that led to the coroner's office, which was part of the hospital, the original hospital, and now it's the coroner's old office. The coroner has a new one now, but it's an old Victorian style. I would say I like Victorian administration buildings. Like I like Victorian houses, but I like Victorian administration buildings or
You
like
do.
business buildings that were Victorian, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. So the next one I like is the Los Angeles Orphanage Asylum, which I posted about a week ago, and just like the massive, I guess I like the huge looming buildings. And this is a Romanesque style building, very creepy looking, goes perfect with a asylum and orphanages. I don't know why. It just does.
Institutional.
Yes. So that's my second one. My third one is the original Whittier State School for Boys, which is AKA Fred C. Nellis, AKA California Youth Authority. Before it was at the late 1800s building, which was also a Victorian administration building. Just very big. Even has a pentagon on it or something in the window. I guess they were popular back then before it got associated with devil worshiping. I don't know, or a hexagon or something. So that was, I really liked the massive, the dark, the looming again. So that's the third one. Fourth one, another looming building is the Preston Castle Romanesque revival.
Very looming.
Yes. And you got to go in there, it's very haunted too. A lot of tragedies happen in that building, but they love it. They're active. They're having all these events and stuff. So I'm happy for them that they're just,
we got to go back.
yeah. So they're having like a huge Halloween stuff going on right now. So that sounds cool that they're able to embrace their hauntedness compared to some other places that either get torn down and raised off or like they pretend nothing ever happened.
Yes.
The fifth one is not there anymore. It's the Central Manufacturing District Terminal, and it used to be in Vernon, the city of Vernon. But it has another thing that I like: the Moorish style domes, like those big Moorish style. I guess there's Spanish style as well, but
well, the Spanish Moors,
yeah. So I like that revival style with the domes and like which connects to like that cemetery in Compton, but that would be a sixth place. But I like that architecture, how they try to like mimic the whole Taj Mahal and that type of, I don't know. I think it looks very mysterious, but it also reminds me of the revival, the Egyptian revival. Like they were like all into this odd, eccentric architecture, that they didn't know about, so they want to recreate it. So
they be more cultured.
Yeah. So those are, I would say, my top 6. I could probably name more, but top 5, 6 that I like. So I would say a lot of the ones that I picked are Romanesque style, Moorish, Spanish, and then the Art Deco.
For me, and please forgive me, I didn't do my homework as well as I should have. I've had a rough week, like we all have, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So I wrote it down, a couple of them. So off the top, I'm going to say the Banning. I love the Banning. The Bannings, like in my backyard. The Bannings like family. So the Banning Residence Museum in Wilmington, California. Greek revival, perfect example of open, clean, Victorian home. And I have a lot of, like, my heart is in that house. So I'm going to pick the Banning. Also, I love the Oviatt building in downtown LA. Mm-hmm. One of the first Art Deco buildings in Los Angeles. And if you haven't gone, I highly suggest you go. They have the amazing Cicada Club that's on the bottom. I've been all the way to the penthouse on the top where Oviatt and his family lived. Been on the roof. I've been in the elevators. I've even investigated other floors when we weren't supposed to. But I've been all over it, and it was the men's haberdashery, and I could just say that,
which is like zippers or like ties.
Yes, yeah, okay. Like all the different little pieces of a suit or buttons, all that little stuff. But haberdashery is such a fun word, is it not?
Yeah,
and it's just a fine example of Art Deco. I'd say probably I love like Anne Rice's house in New Orleans, and I didn't take a chance to look it up. I don't know if it's Queen Anne style. I don't know if it is Queen Anne style. It could be. I have to think about it. But pretty much my heart belongs to New Orleans. So all the different architectures that the different buildings in there, that one specifically is nice. And I hate to mention any kind of plantations, but the Myrtles plantation, I love the filigree of like the shutters and the little outside decorations that are built on into the house. It's pretty amazing. It's not an amazing mansion. It's not massive like you would, or not mansion, plantation. It's not a massive plantation like most of the plantations you would see in the South or in New Orleans. Obviously, we all know the Myrtles is there for its spectacular guests, meaning like the ghosts that we all go to see. But the whole place is amazing, and it's an interesting build. I think I'm just being biased, and I'm trying to make something up on the on the whim because I can't. I didn't do my homework, but New Orleans is pretty darn amazing if you ask me. So nearly anything New Orleans I pick, but I'll give you those two ones that I love.
And you, off bat, any of the LA buildings that you like? I mean, only the OVIA?
I love Millennium Biltmore.
Okay. So that's like
Millennium Bil-
the arts revival or the Beau arts revival style.
yeah,
And I know you
that,
love General Hospital too.
I do. It's just we have a very we have a past. And
I know.
until she we have a meeting of minds and I'm okay with her, like it's like a love hate. It's like, you that friend that bothers you and you want to love and embrace them, but then they go and do something and it irritates you, gets under your skin, or like a little sister or something. I don't know.
I can
But
see that.
so it's like a love hate. I don't hate her at all, but she bothers me sometimes when I see her because I think of bad memories.
Yeah.
And I love
mean,
the corner. The corners.
uh-huh.
Yeah, there's so many buildings in Los Angeles, even in the jewelry district, just the massive. I love the Art Deco. I do love that Egyptian revival, and I just any building in Los Angeles. If you just go look up in downtown LA and you look up
The
and you
skyline,
see
yeah.
not just the skyline, but just the little detailing over the windows and the gargoyles or the little filigree on top of the windows. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, fourth question, it relates to, maybe you might know this one, and it's by Temi, TEMICXOCH_. So Temi Koch or something, I don't know. Thank you for asking though.
Yes, thank you.
This person says, do you know if the old homes on Carey Street next to the drum barracks are haunted? I'm imagining, right, all the houses that are next to the front side of drum barracks, right?
I would imagine that's what they're referring to.
Yeah. Well, have you heard anything or got any
I
senses there?
I haven't heard anything. I don't particularly sense it because when I'm on that street, it's usually for like Victorian Christmas at the banning, and I'm trying to find parking. So I'm like, all these people are like in my way. So I don't really think about that street. I think that it definitely has the potential to be haunted. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of like residual haunting,
Mhm.
but I haven't heard anyone reach out and say, "Hey, my house is haunted." Of course, I haven't, investigated with the team in quite a while, anyways. So, but I'm sure it's bound to be haunted, and I guess that's the best way I can answer it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, we already know that drum barracks. We had a episode on the drum barracks where you guys talked about, you and History Collector, whether you thought it was haunted or felt and all that stuff. So if you guys want to listen to the episode, go back to the interview with History Collector. They get into a discussion in great length about the drum barracks.
Yes, great length. I could talk to a history collector forever about John Barracks in Wilmington.
Okay, so last question. It was more of yeah, you do paranormal, and this is by Ping Pong Pang.
Yes, I do paranormal. I eat it for breakfast, especially right now. There's a lot more opportunities around this time of the year. Back in April, I was in Virginia City, and we had a chance to go to a couple of locations and have some like little. I don't. They were off the book, kind of like we didn't really investigate, but we were in some haunted locations. November, we were at where were we at? Tombstone, Arizona. So think of the Old West, and we were allowed to do like a little impromptu investigation downstairs, and that was pretty amazing. So yes, I do investigate.
So
I
you
have
last
friends
investigated for your birthday, right?
for my
Or
birthday.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it depends on what you consider an investigation. If you want to call it a full out, like with equipment and sitting down with multiple people, it's been a little while. But I was just at the at the cemetery not that long ago, attempting to communicate with spirits.
So you
that's
have
an
your own
investigation.
kind of investigations with whether it's solo or with the group.
Yeah, I would love to do an investigation with Doña Junta, but she's like, no, no, no. Maybe we can talk her into it. What do you guys think? Let us know. Can we talk Doña Junta into doing an investigation
Yeah,
paranormally?
Maybe it's one of these buildings I mentioned.
How about if it were to be Preston Castle?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I definitely want to go back, so we'll see.
I need to contact them and see what they say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another story. But there you guys got it. She might be open to an investigation. Let's see what we can do.
Yes, so thank you, Ping Pong Pang. I don't do paranormal, but I will be open depends on the place. And I have to be held hands with them because I get scared, but we'll see. But anyhow, yeah, so thank you for everybody that participated in the Q&A. We could do this in the future if you guys have more questions. But for October, we do plan to do a few more episodes just to kind of get the feel of the month because it is Sabrina's favorite month. And in November was when we first recorded our first episode at Preston Castle. So we didn't officially drop till February, but we actually first did the episode November 2019, or was it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, we visited it on Halloween.
2020.
Oh,
2020.
2020. Yeah. So the night before, I think we recorded it in the day and Halloween day.
We went to Preston Castle. So yeah, it'll be pretty much a year officially, but it hasn't been out since, we dropped February. So that's the only difference. But yeah, we'll have an episode about some of the more Halloween based or maybe paranormal based episodes and just interesting things. Well, we're going to do a few for this month and we're going to do some research on that soon. So we'll be bringing some good stuff.
Please, if there's anything you want to see, you want us to discuss, you have a ghost story located somewhere here in Los Angeles or not far, and it's, directly having to do with a building somewhere we can have access to, please tell us.
Oh my God.
Happy. Tell me.
We need access to General Hospital. You know who you are that has access. Hit me up. We need to plan that because I want to go in just to explore. It doesn't have to be an investigation, but just to look at it.
Tomato.
Yeah. So I'm going to hit you up actually about that. But anyhow, thank you for listening. Again, follow us on IG. I'm under Swap Me Chronicles, Doña Junta, and then follow our podcast page under Beyond the Facade podcast. And you could give
my poor little IG page, observing _spooks_ and other vices. You can follow me on my page, Sabrina the Grown Up Witch, Sabrina _ I think it's the _ grown up _ witch, and it's a lot more personal stuff as opposed to this stuff. But follow me there. I'm more active there. But lately we've been so busy, and we're just so happy to be back with you guys, and we're looking forward to the next episode.
Yes, it'll be fun. All right, bye you guys. Thank you for listening.
Bye. Take care.